¿Qué tal, guerreros? Capítulo 3 y hoy vamos a ver cómo realmente operan en un fondo de inversión como es Goldman Sachs y cuál es la diferencia de tradear con una cuenta personal o con una cuenta profesional. Nos lo cuenta aquí nuestro compañero. Vamos a seguir con ello.
They've migrated to hedge funds, or they trade their own money. Guys like myself.
Aquí estaban
Guys like myself
preguntándole,
can earn as much, if not more, than we used to.
ahora, estaban preguntándole antes que, bueno, que cómo se entraban estas firmas. En el capítulo 2 lo dejamos por ahí. Cómo se entraban estas firmas, tal, que si era muy complejo y que cómo estaba la industria en este momento, ¿ok? Cuando le estaban haciendo la entrevista.
Doing our own thing, rather than going to work for an investment bank now. So I would say it's difficult to say within the industry when overall the quality's gone down. So,
Entonces dice, claro, es que ahora mismo hay gente con la que yo trabajaba que se salió y ellos mismos están generando un buen dinero por su cuenta sin tener que estar tradeándolo para un banco, porque las cosas han cambiado, las estructuras de las empresas son diferentes y tal.
I think it's a really tough job now for graduates. If you manage to get into these companies, I think it's a tough situation because once you're there, from my perspective, from what I used to see and the people I used to work with, a lot of these people just aren't around anymore. So the talented people have all left. So it's a bit of a minefield that you're going to turn up and learn from people that aren't really that talented or not very good at what they do. Because
Sí, pero yo ahí tampoco creo que no estoy tan de acuerdo, ¿sabes? O sea, porque obviamente Goldman Sachs no creo que haya estado contratando imbéciles. Lo que pasa es que sí que es verdad que los mercados han cambiado en otra dirección y obviamente la persona que estaba antes invirtiendo ahí justamente manualmente, pues ahora lo han cambiado por un tipo que sabe trading de alta frecuencia, que entiende las telecomunicaciones perfectamente, que entiende los algoritmos y bueno, pero la gente pro está ahí. Chaval, pues los chavales por aquí parece que están sobando.
if you're talented, you get paid. What you get paid is I'm afraid to say, a recognition of your talent. Okay? But what's happened in the industry now is it's in structural decline because of regulation. So all the talented people who used to get paid all the money, who used to be innovative, entrepreneurial, got paid the big bucks, either now work for themselves or have gone to hedge funds or left the Western world altogether, and now they're in emerging or frontier markets. So within the investment banks, I would still say Goldman Sachs is slightly head and shoulders above most banks. Culturally,
Lo que os digo es que al final esos datos yo los saco de leer, de investigar, de saber gente que ha estado trabajando y trabaja en esos sitios. O sea, que es que Goldman Sachs no va a empezar a contratar a pardillos ahora, ¿sabes? No me jodas. O sea, siendo ahí como el máximo referente de todo esto y teniendo todas las bolsas como las tiene.
I think pretty much outside of that, everyone's the same. It's difficult to differentiate.
Anyone else? Yeah, come.
Golden question will basically trade apart from the boarding house mentality.
Oh my God, that's a pretty open-ended question. Could be here all night. From my experience actually in the professional and retail world, because when I came out of the professional world, I'd totally forgotten what it was like to trade with your own money. Now back to what I was talking about earlier.
Vamos a lo interesante. Os va a gustar. Atento.
When I was 18, 19 years old at uni, getting up at 6 a.m., when lectures started at 9:10. I look back at that and now realize when I see retail traders, probably the most important thing is you have to be a self-starter.
Fijaos qué importante eso, guerrero? O sea, tened en cuenta, dice, que lo más importante es que tienes que ser un emprendedor. Y eso lo hemos explicado en 50 millones de ocasiones, probablemente aquí en el canal. O sea, al fin y al cabo, cada una de estas cosas que hacemos tiene que ser como un negocio que hagamos en la vida real. Si no, no nos funciona. En un negocio, tú no abres una peluquería y si te va mal, abres 5 más el mes siguiente. Pues con tus operaciones, cuando pierdes, haces exactamente eso, ¿sabes? Eso es un ejemplo que hemos explicado en otras ocasiones y es que tiene todo el sentido del mundo. Y fíjate qué curioso.
You have to be somebody who is highly motivated to go out into the world and seek out your own information and work for yourself. Now, if you're doing it within a company, when you're working for yourself, you're really working for the company because there's a big collection of individuals with all with self-interest called a company, essentially. And if you're on a trading desk, all of those guys, they're all thoroughbred self-starters, no doubt about it. You have to want to get up in the morning, you have to love the market, you have to seek out the information, you have to come up with innovative ideas, you have to be entrepreneurial, do business with your clients, and find ideas in the market that are going to make you a lot of money because the market hasn't realized the opportunity exists.
Claro, es que en su caso, cuando trabajaba como inversor institucional, lo que hacen ellos también es negociar bloques de acciones con diferentes inversores a los que ellos les llevan las operativas, ¿sabes? Entonces, por eso te dice eso, de nosotros buscamos la operación, buscamos los movimientos, buscamos la oportunidad y luego tenemos que negociar con clientes, ¿sabes? Ellos, por ejemplo, se llaman y, bueno, y a lo mejor negocian un bloque de acciones con un cliente, pero tienen un cliente institucional, no tienen un retail que te llaman y te dicen, oye, tengo 20.000 acciones de esto, no, ¿sabes? A lo mejor son varios millones en acciones de tal, ¿vale? Pero para que veáis, es que es otra cosa totalmente diferente a lo que nosotros hacemos.
To get those ideas, you've got to go back to the basic, which is you really have to be a self-starter.
We'll take one more. Yeah.
Based on your experience in terms of trading, is there anything you can't learn from, I mean, as in when you trade by yourself, is there anything that you can't learn by working for investment banks? Meaning, as in if you work for investment banks, there are things that you learn which you can't really.
Well, traditionally the argument
Joder, le ha dado 50 vueltas a la pregunta para preguntarle, oye, ¿hay algo que no se puede aprender y que tengas que aprender explícitamente tradeando en un banco de inversión o no? Y a ver qué nos comenta.
was the professionals see the order flow in the market, therefore they have an information advantage.
Exacto, esto es importante, ¿vale? Porque los traders profesionales que están en Goldman, en muchos sitios, no solamente en Goldman, en más sitios también, ellos ven dónde se están metiendo todas las operaciones. Entonces saben perfectamente el lado del mercado que puede ser el ganador, ¿vale? Conté con eso, muchas veces entre ellos mismos utilizan estrategias para salirse del mercado. Pero no penséis, o sea, los que estéis viendo esto y tengamos una cuenta, da igual, de 15, de 20 o de 100.000 dólares, ¿eh? No penséis que nuestra operación están pendientes ahí para no sé qué, no sé cuánto, no. Esto lo habla en el sentido de, se ve a grosso modo lo que está pasando, entienden el lado del mercado mucho más, tienen esa ventaja y luego aparte cuentan con esto. O sea, no van a buscar tu orden personal, ¿vale? Que es que es absurdo, porque ya entre ellos tienen que protegerse, ¿vale? A lo mejor Goldman está viendo la orden de JP Morgan o está viendo la orden de... y entre ellos hacen estrategias para engañarse, ¿vale? Pero por favor, no te pienses que con tu Bitcoin comprado en 20 o en 30 y tantos mil dólares va a llegar justamente ahí, te va a tocar el límite de pérdida y se fue porque han visto tu operación. No, no somos tan importantes en esta vida ni en el mercado, ¿vale?
Well, I can tell you, when you're sitting at an investment bank on a trading desk, internally, they think everybody else has the advantage. Because what they're doing is trading with, hedge funds. The hedge funds are coming in, and the market makers and the traders are taking the risk that the hedge funds are giving them. So they're using the bank's balance sheet to make prices to hedge funds. Now, a lot of hedge funds in the past have been what you describe as hot money. So they come in and they know something that you didn't know, and they take you out in a stock, and you'd be short, and they'd be long. And then the stock would move 10, 20% against you. At investment banks, traditionally the argument was from the outside, from the retail trader, and even from the hedge fund industry, well, they've got the order flow, so they know whether a stock's...
Increíble, ¿eh? Dice, o sea, a lo mejor tú estás metido en una operación en short, en unas acciones, y un banco de inversión está en long porque está viendo más parte del mercado que tú. Por eso nosotros siempre, cuando estamos tradeando Bitcoin o SP, por ejemplo, tradeamos Bitcoin muchísimo en abierto, en vivo y en directo, entendemos eso, ¿no? Y buscamos siempre montarnos en confirmaciones que nos esté dando el profesional, porque si no, o sea, esto se pone más complejo todavía, ¿no?
Going down, or whether a stock's going up, or an asset, yeah? Whereas the guys at investment banks think the information advantage is outside at the hedge funds because they speak to everybody. Okay? No longer the case at the investment banks, really, in terms of order flow, because now everything's put in a machine. So, you know, in the old days, you used to be able to take an order in a stock, and a lot of people would use the order to bully the stock around, you know, push it to levels that they wanted it to go to. It just doesn't happen anymore. Everything goes in a machine, and then you've got other liquidity pools, you know, like the dark pools, where people can trade without seeing counterparty, without knowing what level they're trading at until they get the execution, etc., etc.
O sea, que antiguamente cuando tú metías una orden todo el mundo podía verlo mucho más claro, y ahora mismo hay unos pools oscuros donde si Goldman mete una orden y la va a cruzar con otra operación no se ve, ¿vale? Se cruza ahí dentro. Es complejo de explicar porque tecnológicamente, no sé, es algo que a mí se me escapa de mi mente, ¿sabes? O sea, lo he leído, lo he estudiado a fondo eso, pero es algo que, no sé, es complejo, ¿sabes? Como es abstracto también, pues... Pero bueno, básicamente es un lugar donde se ejecutan las órdenes y no se puede ver quién está ejecutando contra quién, ¿vale? Entonces, a día de hoy dice que es complejo el querer observar todo eso porque es que no se ve. O sea, por eso nosotros cogemos acción del precio pura porque es lo que tenemos en el gráfico, no tenemos más cosas. Sí, luego podemos irnos más a fondo, estudiar más no sé qué, pero...
What's great about the internet is, honestly, now I came out the professional side and I've done 4 years of trading with my own money again. What's great about the internet is all the information is actually there. You can actually get it all for very cheap cost or free. But what's more important is actually knowing how to interpret that information and turn it into real hard dollars.
Buenísimo, o sea, toda la información está en internet, pero lo más importante es coger esa información y convertirla, porque luego llega gente que sabe muchísimo y empieza a hacer unas vergas que no consigue sacarle nada al mercado. Eso es importante, ¿vale?
So that's probably the most important thing.
So after retiring from the banking industry, you took a year out travelling. Is that just a case of well-earned time off?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not scared to admit it. You know, after seven and a half years, I was very burnt out. You know, and I felt like I deserved a break. You know, when I grew up in Liverpool, left from Liverpool when I was 18 to go to Manchester University. Went to university for 3 years, was hired by Goldman in my final year for 9 months' time. After my final exam, which was, I still remember the date, June the 12th. 3 weeks later, I was on a plane to New York, and I was working for Goldman. So, you know, and then you have 2 weeks holiday a year. So I'd never had a break. I'd never seen the world. So I wanted to go and do that and take a break and then reassess. Whilst, you know,
Listo, se fue a pegarse una vuelta en cuanto dejó los bancos y dijo, escucha, a mí no me llaméis, como si se cae el mundo.
I also thought the market was going down. So being short in that situation when everyone's long, you don't get paid at these places. So it's a waste of time. So, you know, offered to go back into the industry, buy a few places, but declined. Sold my property in London and got on a plane around the world for 14 months with one bag of clothes.
So your next venture was working on the BBC program, $1 Million Traders. How did that come about?
Buah, esto fue buenísimo, yo me lo he visto. Y es un programa en el que, bueno, pues van formando a gente, cogen un equipo de personas y cada uno de su padre y de su madre, o sea, no tienen nada que ver con la bolsa, y le dan una formación y van llevándolos a conseguir tradear con $1 millón, ¿sabes? Y está muy interesante, y de eso es de lo que va a empezar a hablar ahora.
I was sitting on a beach in Brazil, drinking a caipirinha, and got a phone call from a guy I used to work with at Goldman Sachs who had come up with the idea and the concept, Lex Van Dam. And he literally point blank asked me, do you want to get involved in the TV program? At this stage, believe it or not, traveling around the world, this was like 13 months down the line, traveling around the world, seeing jungles, cities, beaches, and bumming around for 13 months gets a little bit boring. The grass is always greener, right? But I was bored. So, you know, this situation was literally a good stepping stone to come back into the Western world after you've been away for so long. Just come back, put yourself out there. And, I liked the concept of it. The idea that if we trained people and gave them a couple of weeks training and then gave them $1 million and just let them loose on the market whilst the market environment was the worst it's ever been, we'd probably find some pretty interesting results. So, from the outset, the objective of the show really...
Bueno, un par de semanas el objetivo, la verdad que tampoco podía ser muy ambicioso, porque en 2 semanas no creo que pillasen ahí la verga. Y luego lo llevaban $1 millón, ¿sabes?
...to show 2 things. One, that actually anybody can trade if you get the right instruction and you're willing to work a little bit at it and you have the kind of right mindset. That's the first thing, but also that it's actually quite tough. Not everybody can do it. So I think, a lot of people in the market, like this gentleman over here, we were discussing the conflict of interest earlier. Due to this conflict of interest in the retail brokerage market, you'll get told by a lot of people that anyone can trade. You'll get emails all the time. Make $10,000 a month in the international forex markets.
Buenísimo, buenísimo. Eso creo que lo hemos visto todos, ¿no? O sea, el típico correo o anuncio de gana $10.000 al mes invirtiendo en Forex. Es fácil, rápido, para toda la familia. Mira no sé quién, era tal y ahora es tal.
The problem is that not everyone can do it, and a lot of it is lies. So you have to be very, very careful. So we set out, with an objective to prove that people can do it, but in a certain way, but not everyone can do it. And I think it was, pretty successful.
Okay, so by doing that, you must have created a public image. So how did you deal with that, or how did that affect your life?
When I came back, I was in terms of timetable. What happened? I came back May 2008. Started filming the TV program 2 weeks later. We actually did filming here, upstairs. And actually next door in the rooms here, we interviewed people, and then we did most of the training upstairs. But in terms of timetable, the show took about 10 weeks to film, and then we finished filming on August the 31st, 2008. And then I took off again. I went traveling for another 4 months. Because I wasn't here for any reason except that. And then the show was aired February 2009. And then I was back in London again and renting an apartment by Tower Bridge. It became a bit weird, if you like, because I'd used to walk into the city to see my old buddies and workmates, for lunch. We'd be sitting around, and there was one situation which was a bit weird. A guy ran across the street and picked me up and started hugging me. He's like a guy in his mid-40s. I was like, okay, yeah, can I help you? He's like thanking me. He's like, thank you so much, thank you so much, thank you so much. I'm like, why? He's like, my wife now understands what I do for a living.
Habían estado viendo el programa de televisión tú y ahora ya habían entendido a lo que se dedicaba. Hostia, pero qué curioso tiene que ser volver otra vez, ¿eh? Yo recuerdo cuando estuve en la City y, o sea, no trabajando, me refiero, estuve de viaje allí y guau, y es una barbaridad. O sea, imagino que haber estado trabajando allí con, luego, joder, pues el sentimiento que se vive eso y la intensidad que se vive. Yo cuando voy a Madrid voy otra vez por donde estaban las oficinas y eso, joder, pues te da un recuerdo que te cagas, ¿no? De cuando estabas allí trabajando como broker y eso. Y aquí, buah, pues tiene que ser una emoción increíble, la verdad.
But then there's other uncomfortable situations. That's good stuff to know, but it's a bit uncomfortable. There's other uncomfortable situations, like I was out maybe a month or 2 after the show had finished, and a bunch of guys in the city were all drunk, and they just surrounded me in a bar and would not let me leave. They were like, you're staying out with us the whole night. And they were just giving me drinks and drinks and drinks and just forcing me to stay out with them. And my friends were leaving, and I can't believe I've got to stay out with these people who I don't even know.